Hey everybody, welcome back to Joe and Tell. I'm Joe, and today we finally get to draw the nose. So drawing the nose is much like drawing any other part of the face. It all comes down to the shading. So I think it's important to have a reference photo. So I've got a couple of reference photos for us to use today, and I'll have a link into the description so you can get these. We will start with a front view of the nose, and then we will move on to the side view. So pick your paper, pick your favorite pencil, and pick a nose because we're going to draw. So this is how I draw a nose. It can be a little difficult. Again, the shading is key. So I'm going to start, basically the nose has got a couple of different planes or flat areas. You can draw a shape, like this, and there's going to be something in the middle, which is going to be the bridge, and then you've got this bottom part down here. So that's the overall shape of the nose, but if we want to follow with the same theme as before with kind of the beans or the circles, we can start by drawing a circle for the tip of the nose. Again, this is going to be very light. These are just our construction lines. And then we can draw another circle on the right and another circle on the left. Those two circles should be the same size, roughly. Okay, so pretty easy so far, just 3 circles. And what I'll do after that is kind of take a look at my reference photo, and see where the nose shapes are in proportion to the other shapes. So for instance, the side of the nostrils for my reference photo seem to be a little bit high as far as where I've placed them. The bottom of the nose may be somewhere around here. So I will come in here and kind of start to curve, and I'm just going to use the circles as guides. And I'm just going to do the sides of the circles a little bit darker as the edges of the nostril or nostrils or whatever part that is. And I'm going to come in a little bit more on the bottom of these pieces. And then, like I said, this ball is way too low in regards to the reference photo. So I'm going to probably come about here and try to just combine these into one shape. Now the trick here is that you don't go like this from edge to edge, okay? That will make it look very flat and not realistic. What you want to do is have this curve come up and end just a little bit higher than this part right here. So what I'll do is I'll start up above this bottom curve somewhere around here, and then I'll come down with a curve line like so to where I think the bottom of the nose should be. And I'll do the same thing over here. Start above the bottom of this line, of this side curve, and come down to where I think the nose ends. I'll go ahead and get rid of this circle here because we don't need that. So we've got the basic outline of the bottom of the nose. You can come in and put a little bit of a line on each side because this part of the nose actually wraps around. So to indicate that, you can kind of just give it a little bit, although in our reference photo you don't really see that much at all. Maybe a little bit on the left, but not really. Okay, and then this, it's very subtle, but you can make out the ball or the top part of the nose. It's very, very light, especially on a female. Males tend to have a little bit more rigid or pronounced lines, but you can kind of just give the indication that this is here by a few soft lines on the sides of that circle. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and erase some of this stuff. And I can tell by my drawing already that my nostrils are too low. So I'll bring those up a little bit higher on each side. And maybe this, that should be okay. Maybe I'll bring it in just a little bit. So you can see why I said that those circles in the beginning were just guides and why we drew them so very light. Because we make a lot of changes along the way. And then I'm gonna, from this point here, I'm gonna kind of start to go up a little bit. And then wherever I think the height of the nose meets the eyebrow, I will start to curve it out like that. And I'll do the same thing over here. And you don't want this line to be dark at all. Because typically, the only reason you see anything like this shape at all isn't because there's a line there. It's because the sides of the nose are in shadow. This part and this part are in shadow. And they actually, it's what makes up the appearance of this line on the top. But for ease of drawing, a lot of times people will just draw the lines in there like this, so they don't have to worry about trying to shade all that. And then if we're looking at our reference, you'll see that there's a bit of a shadow because the sun is coming down, or the light source is coming down from the top. There's a bit of a shadow on the bottom of the nose. So it looks like I can come up just slightly above the nostrils and put a little bit of a light line in there and then come down and kind of follow that original ball. And we'll come down to the center here, like that. Okay? And it looks like, again, looking at my reference, which I'm actually doing this time, it looks like this might even be a little bit higher over here. So come up a little bit higher, a little bit higher, and that looks a little more like what we're seeing in our picture. And then I'll just shade this in very lightly. Like so. And then I'll give this a little bit more shadow under here, because that's going to be probably the darkest part of the nose. And then, again, this is just about drawing the nose, but to make this more believable, you can add the little dip in the lip, or the skin right above the lip. So it looks like there's a bit of a shadow cast from this part of the nose. And the lips go in wherever you would like them. And then you can kind of shade in this a little bit. But again, I'm not going to worry too much about the lips because that's not what this video is about. And the rest of the nose under here is going to be in shadow. Maybe I'll extend this out. This is why I said the nose, that the tricky part again is always the shading. At least it is for me. And darken this part up a lot, quite a bit, because that's, like I said, the darkest part of this drawing. Okay, and then I can come in and maybe get some of this light lines that I created erased. I'm still not very happy with this. This kind of comes up a little bit maybe. And really, again, there's no real line here. It's just a shadow with a light highlight coming in. So you could do something like this maybe. I don't know. I'm just making it up as I go, folks. So you do the same and try to make it look like you're drawing or your photo. And I will just start to like maybe just slightly shade this in. And now you know why people often tend to draw like this, because this way of drawing the nose takes quite a bit of time, because once you start shading in like this, then you have to start shading in the rest of the face and everything else. It looks like there might be a little bit of shadow from the cheek being cast down on each side, just a little bit. Okay. Also too, if this type of nose is really difficult to draw when you're starting out and trying to figure out the nose, a better option might be to find pictures of noses that are of people who are, 50 plus years old, because they're going to have a lot more definition. They're going to have a lot harder lines, more wrinkles, more shadow, and you're going to be able to see the lines of the nose a lot easier than you can in somebody who's, in their 20s or even in their 30s. Again, I'm just kind of going back and playing around until I am happy with what I have on my paper. And that's really what it's all about, is experimentation and trial and error. I'm going to put a little bit of a shadow on the bottom of this part of the nose. And then I'm going to darken up, again, this edge. If we're being honest, this is not really a line here. It's just an appearance of a line from a shadow. So I'm going to do the same thing, and I apologize if this is shaking. And if we want, we can come back and, like we did on the lip, we can lighten up this area, because the light is essentially going to hit while this is cast in shadow, the light's going to hit this part of the lip or the flesh and then bounce light off. So it's going to be reflective light. So that's why that gets a little bit lighter on the end there. Okay. Come up on the sides here just a little bit more. And maybe adding some shading here. Just up the side a little bit. Darken this up some more. And typically what I'll do is the light source in this drawing is coming pretty much straight down. Sometimes you can come in from the side, so this side will be darker than this side, which is kind of what it looks like now. But that's pretty much it. There's not a whole lot to it as far as like the shape of it. The hardest part is getting the proportions correct for the drawing you're doing. Okay? If you wanted to draw the same kind of nose, but really any type of shape or size, and you're not following a reference photo, you can do that. I'll get rid of this little construction box here. And what I would normally do without a reference is kind of start the same way, maybe not with circles, but you can still do that. So circle, 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 and then just kind of start to feel out where this nose is going to go and how it's going to look. Come up with the top of this part of this nose, and then some of the lines that aren't really lines. And then you can just start to shade in, give some color to the nostrils, and then the shadow from the top of the nose being cast down on the bottom, like that. And then this is going to, of course, be in shadow a bit too, with it coming down the most down the front. Something like this. Again, I'm just making this up. I'm not using a reference photo for this one. Okay? So essentially it's the same process, and you can just keep going with it and end up getting to this point. Now I'm going to pull up a different photo for the side of the nose, and it's going to be similar to how we did the lips. You can only draw so much. You got to have at least some of the face in here. So the face is kind of come down, maybe like this. And then the lips will be here, let's say. And then the nose will be here. So I'm going to do a ball or maybe a bean. And then another one here. And that's going to be this part. And this will be the side part, and you kind of just do a little bit of a curved line up. I apologize for I'm drawing into my other other drawings, but oh well. It's all this practice, right? Come back down with this. And you can see in the reference photo for this particular one, you can see that the little cleft in the lips or whatever it is divided. So the nose comes down to the midline, and then there's another part of the lip on the other side of it. You can indicate that. Like so. Again, not drawing the lips. So we've got the basic shape of the nose, and the back here is going to be some shadow. Again, this is just based off the photo. So I'm going to create that hard edge line, and then I'm going to shade up to it and lighten up my pencil marks as I get higher up on the nose. And then we've got to give them a nostril. So I'm going to do a curved line up and then pretty sharply back down. And then you can kind of, again, indicate the curve because this piece of flesh wraps around. It's not flat. And then what you'll do is you'll start really hard dark up here and then get lighter as you come out. So again, this will be the darkest part of the drawing. And you can also indicate a little bit of that shadow that comes across here. It's less pronounced in this photo, and it is less pronounced typically when you're looking at a side view of the nose. And then where the nose meets the face, there's always a little bit of shadow. So I'm going to make maybe like a, what is that, a less than sign? A little bracket, and then kind of just lightly shade that in and take it up the front of the face. And if you'd like, you can do just a little bit of shading on the side. Darken this up a bit. And it looks like the shadow comes up just a little bit to indicate the roundness of that, the tip of the nose there. So I'll follow that around. And then darken. That's probably way too dark, actually. As I said, this is the darkest part of the nose, so. And it's starting to look a little muddy for me. And sometimes when you're dealing with shading, that happens. But you can always go back and clean things up, like I'm doing now. And then what I like to do at the end of my drawing is to make sure I always come back and give it a little bit of a highlight on the bridge of the nose and the tip, because that's where all the light hits. So right along here, and then you can come back and darken this line up. I'm taking very short and light strokes with the pencil. Come back down. Maybe shade this in a little. And then once you start adding things like the lips and the eyes and where everything meets, it'll start to really pop out. I don't know that I'm all that thrilled with how this turned out, but that's essentially how you would do the side of the nose. Again, it's, you do the ball or bean, ball, and then an arc or slope. And then this is going to be the nostril that wraps around on itself. This back part of the nose, front part of the nose, and then that slant. And then you come down with the lips. That's a sharp lip, isn't it? Maybe a little too sharp. Okay, and then I'll come back and clean up this. Again, this is not looking at a reference now. This is just me kind of following the steps I did for the other one on my own to see what I come up with. And it may not look like any one person's nose, but I think it looks like a nose. And I'll just keep messing with it until I'm happy. See, at this point, I think maybe this needs to come in a little more. I don't know. Okay, does that make sense? The things you don't want to do are like this. You know, that doesn't look right. Or you don't want to do this. I mean, I guess you can. It just depends on the position, too, of where you're looking at the light. Or, I'm sorry, the nose. So if you're looking more of a top-down view, you're not going to see the nostril at all. And it might look like this. Right? Or you could be looking at underside and see a whole lot more of the nostril. That looks like we're looking kind of up their nose. Okay, so I'm going to stop there. I hope this was helpful. The nose takes some practice like everything else, but I have faith that if you keep at it, you will get there. I think personally I need to practice noses because I'm not super happy with the way these turned out, but I think they do look like a nose. And the big thing here is to not give up. You keep working it until you are happy. And if you feel like you've pushed it so far that you can't push it any further and you're not happy, well, then draw another nose. There's plenty of paper, there's plenty of noses. All right, well, that's the nose. Hopefully that helps. We'll see you next time. Well, that was drawing the nose, and like drawing any other part of the face, it all comes down to the shading. So keep practicing. I know it can be difficult, but you'll get there. Maybe I should do a video on shading. I don't know, we'll see. Regardless, I hope it was helpful. I hope you liked it. Like literally like click the like button, like liked it. Make sure you subscribe and get notified, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks so much for watching.